Hello and welcome to another episode of Devon Dad, and I'm quite excited about this one because I've been thinking about this for a very long time, and I get asked the question quite often by friends and family: how do I get into detailing? What do I need to look after my car? So what I've thought of doing is literally the bare bones minimum I think you could do a pretty decent detailed job with. Idea is, what I was doing was, when people would ask me, I'd get all excited straight on, I'd use this and this and this, and before I know it, they got £150 bill, and I'm like, I feel a bit bad. I can't expect someone who's new to detailing to spend £150 on buying sprayers and foam cannons and soap and stuff. So what I've got here is what I think is a good budget list of items to start with. So we'll have a little rundown of all the little bits and pieces. So essentially we're going to use a rinseless wash method, and I feel like the rinseless wash is probably the most, as a starting point, the most cost effective and simplest solution as well. So we're not using any pressure washers. We're going to use a garden hose, a bucket, just one bucket, and some very basic accessories. I'm going to use the stuff that I've already acquired, and what I mean by that is, with the whole detailing thing, it's going to be a progression. Like, there might be people out there who have got a high amount of disposable income and just automatically just go out and buy everything, which is great if you can do that, but most people, I don't think, want to do that or can do that. So we're going to do a bare bones package, and then you will then start adding things as you go along. Work out what you like to use, how you want to do it. You can get some pretty good stuff off Amazon these days. People are testing stuff all over the place, so don't feel like you need to buy the best of the best to start with, because you can get some really decent high quality products reasonably priced, and that is going to get you started. Okay then, so let's go down the list and see what we've got. So straight away, you're going to need a bucket. This clear one here, I think I actually bought online as the website's own brand bucket, and it was £15, and it comes with a grit guard fitted into it. And then there are packages where you could buy twin buckets with grit guards, or a bucket without the grit guard, but I would say definitely get a grit guard on your bucket, because it will just help with, especially with a rinseless and stuff, it will just draw that dirt down to the bottom, and all the heavy soil stuff will sit below the grit guard. And a lot of fancy ones now are designed with a bit of cyclonic action, so they actually draw it down even more. But it's not, again, you don't need to buy the best grit guard in the world. You just need a bucket and a grit guard to get going. Okay, so then we're going to need a wash media. So I'm going to be using my big red sponge. This is quite an old variation of a rinseless wash sponge. So if you see the various slits in it, it's designed to draw in the dirt, and then when you put it in the bucket, release it into the bucket. You can get some pretty good own brand ones. So there's a few websites out there that do their own basic slitted sponge for rinseless wash, which I tallied up £8, and then it all varies up to like 20, 25, 30 quid for a rinseless sponge. This one here though, you cannot use with soap. It kind of, I don't know what it is, but it just goes weird. It's the type of foam they use. It doesn't go great with soap, but the more expensive ones and the newer ones will be able to use with soap. And then you've got some microfiber cloth. So this is like a terry towel, so it's like a low mat, edgeless. This is a rag company one, which I got from a local retail store that specialises in car parts and bikes. And then I think I actually got this one's quite a useful one. This was sort of like a mix of a drying towel and could be used with rinseless. It's kind of got like a flat pile on one side and then a fluffy one on the other. I think I got this from a rather popular DIY company in the UK for like £4. So there's a couple of towels that we can use with the rinseless system, and then I'm going to use, I think for the wheels, my flag tip nylon brush, which I use on the Ibiza detail. I think at some point I probably will upgrade this to a newer one, but it's still soft and it's quite good on wheels to get the face and so forth. And then I might be using the EZ detail brush as well. But what I was going to say is, you don't need to buy the branded stuff to start with. You go on Amazon, buy a brush kit. You can usually get a series of wheel brushes, little detailing brushes. As long as they're sort of reasonably soft, they will do the job. I'm also going to use a sprayer. Now I've got an IK sprayer. You can literally go to your garden centre and get a sprayer from there. I think even Aldi had one recently, or budget supermarkets have got them, so keep an eye out. And you can get one of these really cheap. So I've got, the cheapest one I found was about £15, £15 for one of those, which is really good. So we're going to use that in the process. So with the IK sprayer, I've also got a standard sprayer, literally just an empty bottle, taking the label off, and that is simply just rinseless wash in there. I mean, you could use that for a whole car, but by the end of it, your hand's going to be killing you, so I wouldn't recommend that. Get a cheap sprayer rather than the bottle, or you can have dual wielding, get two sprayers, yeah. And then we got our rinseless wash itself. I'm not doing very good with this list, it's a bit sporadic, I apologise. So I'm using the DIY detail rinseless wash. I sort of kind of got on board with their brand. I'm just a fanboy of it at the minute. I'm not sponsored by them or endorsed by them in any way. I just really like their products, so I'm using their DIY detail rinseless wash. I have used O&R in the past, which kind of got me started on rinseless washes. I've been using rinseless for quite a long time now, and it definitely has its place in the detailing world, and it is such a useful tool. And you can, a lot of people have the misconception that you can only use rinseless on a lightly soiled car. You can use it on heavily soiled stuff, but I think when you start getting caked on mud and things, you just have to start using a bit more of a process to sort of get the dirt off without pushing it around the car, which is always a challenge. But I mean, it depends if you're going to polish and whatever. But I think for this situation now, get you started. If you're just getting into it, you might have a brand new car that you want to keep nice, or you might have an older car that you've just bought second hand, which has still got a few scratches and swirls on it. However, it still looks good, but you just want it to like glow a bit more, and you want to keep it clean and nice, and that's totally fine. It doesn't matter if it doesn't have to be perfect, especially as a daily driver. My Cooper S out there, which we're going to be detailing, is not perfect by any means. There's a lot of scratches, deep scratches, swirls, marks. Even with the low mileage, it needs a good polish, but we're not there yet. Soon. Paint protectant. So once you've washed the car, we're not going to do decontamination, because I feel like that's another level of detailing up when you finally found your feet. When you start understanding how iron removers work, water spot removers, clay bars, clay towels. all that decon process. So I wouldn't, and like tar removers as well, I wouldn't necessarily recommend going straight into all of that. Let's keep it basic for now. So I'm gonna use a bit of a mix, and just to show you the different types. So I'm using the DIY Detail quick beads. This stuff's amazing. For years I've been looking at spray on rinse off sealants, which is what this is, and I was going to get the G-On wet coat, but I never really got it, but just because I had a gallon of bead maker. So again, so this isn't a spray on rinse off, this is sort of like more of a spray on buff off application, so you would use this with a towel. However, I mean, when this came on the scene, everyone was just like blown away by the beading, the protection of it, and it does work really well, and it goes in everything. It's really cool. So, and then another sort of accompaniment to that in my DIY Detail lineup is ceramic gloss. So this is a polymer based sealant, and I think this is a ceramic SiO2 based sealant. It doesn't have ingredients on it, but I assume with the ceramic and in the title, that's what it is. So this would technically give a longer durability than this, but again, then it sort of depends on how much you are going to detail your car and how frequently. Also, we've got then, so I'm sort of jumping about all over the place. I should have planned this a bit better, so I'm keeping it raw. Another alternative, which we didn't say, is a wax. So I have a wheel wax and I have a body wax, and in terms of value, waxes do this I bought a couple of years ago and it's still going strong. The Fuso wax, it's really good stuff. Super hydrophobic, and you do get 12 bumps if you look after it. So I got the Angel Wax Bilberry wax. I've had this for ages. It smells lovely, still going strong. I mean, I must have had this 2 years. I think I got it when I started getting bead maker, and it works really well. Exhausts, wheels, and you get a nice finish on it, and it's really hydrophobic. So wax it. Don't rule out waxes. You could probably get a pot of wax and it will keep you going, but it is more labour intensive to apply wax, I feel. Some of them, especially with body waxes, get in all the little grooves and nicks, and then you end up with like white bits that you got to try and figure out later on. You don't get any of that with bead maker, you don't get any of that with quick beads really. Some people do complain about streaking with quick beads, and it's because you've used too much. Okay, next big one is probably towels. Towels is going to be a huge part of it, because I think you're probably going to want to invest in some towels. But to get you started, I've got a nice drying towel. This was an Auto Finesse drying towel. It's quite big, holds a lot of water, but I've had this a couple of years now, and it's really starting to. I use the microfiber wash, but it's just, I don't know, because of all the different sealants and ceramic glosses and stuff I've used on it, it's really starting to sort of kind of, I don't know. I'm not going to throw it away because I don't want to waste this kind of stuff. I don't want this ending up in landfill. But then I've got other kits that I've acquired over the years. So I've got a nice fluffy towel here. But like I say, is when you buy things off Amazon as a kit, you might get a couple of smaller plush towels like this. This came with, I think, a foam cannon that I bought. But, you might get something like this. And this would dry the car, especially with the Rinseless Wash system. You're not going to have water everywhere. So we're minimising the amount of water we're using, which is going to be really handy. And then we're going to detail the wheels. So with the one bucket, let's talk about the method now. So let's mix it up. So I've got approximately 5 gallons in the bucket, and pretty much most Rinseless Wash systems utilise a capful per gallon. So I'm going to put my 5 capfuls in. 3, 4, 5. Nice. Smells lovely. So back on the shelf. And then we're going to start with putting my sponge in. And what I'm going to do, let's dry my hands, is we're going to wash the car first with this one bucket, and then at the end we're going to do wheels last. Okay. So the way we're going to do it with the garden hose, we're going to do chemical, rinse, chemical. So we're going to apply the rinseless wash to emulsify all the dirt and bring it off the surface, rinse it off with the hose pipe, do the contact wash to get the traffic film off, and then do the wheels, and then dry, and then start to apply our sealants. So with the spray-on sealant, we can put it on the wheel and rinse it off, and that's pretty much done, and we can let nature take its course and dry off, and then go and do the car. That's probably the method that I would recommend. You could do the spray-on rinse-off sealant across the whole car as well, and you'll get loads of beading, loads of sheeting, so the water will cascade. But you have to caveat this a little bit now, because if you haven't decontaminated the paint, your sealants will not last as long as it says on the bottle, because of all of that road grime, the iron, the tar, all the stuff that gets stuck into the pores of the paint. Unless you remove that, it is going to affect the longevity of your paint sealants. So I think we're just going to get onto the method now. So we've got our sponge and our bucket mixed up. We're going to use our IK sprayer, which does have a little bit of rinseless left over from the Ibiza. I'll just show you something here. So if you've ever get the DIY detail products, they come with a sprayer with an extended tube. Okay, so when you first get it, don't just jam it in.
That's what she said.
Because the first time I did that, I bent it, kind of snapped it, and then it created it basically pinched the tube. I couldn't use it. I had to cut it and mess with it and stuff. So just gently, if you kind of feed it in, and what I like to do is kind of rotate the tube as I put it on, and then that way the tube then sits, I don't know if I'm getting that in, right here. Okay, and that's the idea, is that you can get all of it right down to the bottom without a little bit left over, which sometimes happens. So yeah, just remember that top tip, and it works with other products. If you get one with an extended tube, just be careful, don't just jam it in, because you will mess it up, and then you'll be on the phone to the manufacturers going, "The tube don't work," and then yeah, don't worry about that. There are a couple of other little dinky things that you can get, or things that you've just got knocking around. Use your ingenuity to work out these little things. So I've got a tent peg here, which is quite good. You wrap a microfiber towel around it, and that can get in around the lug nuts on the wheels, and then on that one, on that Mini, there's little dots in the wheel, and you have to put, you can get that in there and stuff, and like you can get in, around all the little crevices and things like that, in around the emblems and things. So, but just be careful if using metal. I did have some wooden pegs, but they've all gone. They've all sort of disappeared. But yeah, you'll have stuff in your garage. Don't use a screw or a screwdriver or something like that, because of sharp edges, and you'll end up in a world of hurt. I think that's pretty much it. If you don't have access to a garden hose, you could still use this method by going to one of those places where you can put a couple of quid in the machine and use a pressure washer. So you can take a bucket with you. You can get buckets with lids on so it doesn't splosh all around your car. Take some stuff with you. apply the chemical, rinse it off, apply it again, contact wash, and then either drive forward into a closed area and finish the car off, or drive it home, give it a quick rinse around to get any bits off that may have happened from the drive home. Depends how far you are. And just thinking outside the box a little bit. It's just, you know, there's ways of getting over these things if you're willing to do so. Okay, so I'll stop rambling on. Let's do it. There's bird poop. The roof is absolutely covered in dust, dusty rain. There you go, there's some poop. And then the wheels as well, because it's German, you know, it's not devoid of brake dust. So we're going to go around the car. You know, it has got, you know, sealants and protectants on it, but we're going to get all the grit off. I'm going to show you what's what. Oh yeah, as well, look, I lost my dust cap. I brought these funky little Union Jack ones to go with my Mini. If you made it this far, thank you so much for bearing with me. But now's the fun part. We're actually going to detail the car. I'm going to talk you through how I'm going to do this process. Right now I'm using my IK pump sprayer. This one is a non-foaming sprayer. You can get foaming sprayers depending on the different attachments. So when you do buy one, just have a look and see what it says, whether it's a sprayer or a foamer. You can get ones with built-in motors, battery operated, which will save you from having to pump it up manually. And there's also some that do have the little valve stems for your air compressors. But I just use the manual one so far, so that's all I've got. And I'm using this to apply the Rinseless Wash to the surface. Why is because the pre-wash will help break down the grit and lift that grit and the dirt and the bird droppings and bugs and all that chunky stuff off the surface of the paint, ready for us to rinse it off as part of phase one, so to speak. It softens everything up and we can rinse it off with the hose. And we want to remove as much of that as possible before we go ahead with the contact wash. Because here's the thing, you know, the more dirt that is left on the surface, the more chance we have at risk of scratching the paint. And that goes for the wheels too. So make sure you do the wheels. They're just as important in the pre-wash phase. I like to do the door shuts, as you can see, in around the petrol cap. And it's good to get it in all those places. You know, door shuts and stuff are always good for like the older spiders and so forth. And then, so I'm kind of cracking on a little bit with this with the pre-wash phase here as I'm talking. And I've got a few different adjustments on the nozzle of my hose pipe. So I've set it to something with a little bit more velocity on it. And then I'm moving on to my second application of the Rinseless Wash, and I should have started at the front before, because there are a few little bugs on there, and then if you start at the front or the most heavily soiled areas, then it will give it a little bit more dwell time to help it knock that off when you do the rinse phase. And what's good about the Rinseless solution as well, I find, is if you missed a bit, you can always go back. So on the back of the car, I found some more stubborn areas where there was some bird poop that was really ground in there. So another application, another rinse has helped get those bits off, and a bit more of that surface grime was easy to get off. So continuing to move through again, I'm doing the wheels again, which is all going to form part of the contact wash, and I'm just going to leave that to dwell on there. And what's good about Rinseless Wash as well, you know, you can leave it to dry on the surface and it's not going to leave water spots because it's already encapsulated everything in there. I'm not working in direct sunlight, but if you were working in direct sunlight, it is actually a good method to use a Rinseless Wash. I did one the other day where I probably shouldn't have done it in the heat, but the black roof, as I did the Rinseless Wash, was pretty much steaming off the top, but I did give up after a while and thought I'd wait for it to calm down. So now with my Rinseless Sponge there, you don't want it absolutely full of solution. You want to wring it out so it's just on the verge of dripping. And this is the bucket at the beginning of the wash, so just to show how dirty it gets. So you want the sponge on the verge of dripping there. You don't want it full of solution, because the idea is that the solution that's on the paint wants to go into the sponge and then encapsulate that dirt and then release it into the bucket. That's basically the Rinseless system. And because we've done that pre-wash, we don't necessarily have to worry about going necessarily top down. Is probably the most methodical, but you can basically just follow your nose and come up with your own system, really. So on the front of the car, I'm trying to get the bug. Yeah, and you want to use like as little pressure as possible. And then I've got this, basically this came as a wool woolly set, and I'm using this little mini wool woolly to get in amongst the grille, all these little intricate parts on the front of the car, get into the intakes for turbos there, then get into the bonnet grille and the emblems. Sorry, the emblems. And all those sort of intricate little bits. Literally, as I recorded that, at the same moment, a fly happened to land by my microphone. It's complete luck. I don't know how that happened. The chance moment. But yeah, I'm sort of over showing you that you just need light application there. You don't need to be scrubbing, because the more you scrub, and obviously stay hydrated, drink lots of water. Continue to go around the car, and like I say, you need to develop your own method of doing this, so you can keep in your mind, you know exactly where you've been. And pretty much with the Rinseless system as well, once you sprayed it on the surface, you can see where you've been. And what's great as well, let's say you've done the wash, you've been around the car, you come to the end to dry, you start drying the car and you think, oh, I've missed a bit. Go back to your Rinseless bucket and then clean that area that you missed. I've actually left the back of the car till last, because there was quite a lot of dust on the back. That's where it seems to accumulate the most. And you kind of see-ish dirt on the sponge. And as I've wrung it out in the bucket, it's released all that dirt into the bucket, and it's going to float down into the grit guard, and all the heavy stuff's going to be left loose at the bottom. So I'm using my woolly again, just to get in some of those intricate parts, getting all around the door shut there, in the hinges, get all those. It's always good as well to get all those rubbers nicely clean, because they work better when they're clean and not dry and crispy and crunchy, and it just helps keep them a bit more supple and fresh. And I can get around the inside of the headlights. And as well, the big red sponge is more than capable. It's really nice and flexible to get in around the tight edges as well. And that's pretty much the contact wash. So now we're moving on to the wheels. So I've got the two options. We've got the standard clear bottle, which we're using to apply the Rinseless Wash with onto the wheel. We get the tyres, get all into the barrels. I'm basically just showing you the different types, but the sprayer is 100% hands down the easiest way to apply it to the surface. You can get in there, and sometimes as well, just that the power of the sprayer can really help. Then I've got a few accessories here. We've got the towel we can use, the big body brush, the wheel and body brush, the lug nut brush, and the barrel brush. That one's starting to see better days, really. I've had it a little while now, and I think it's time to upgrade it, but for now we'll just stick with these tools. They're still soft and work very well. So do the tyre first, keep dunking as much as you want to, really. You've got the solution there, you've already done the body work, so we're not planning on putting this bucket of solution back on the paint onto the main body, go into all those spokes, and I like to usually work in a nice methodical circle, start at the top or to the side, but I have, because I'm kind of thinking about recording and talking a little bit, even though I've sort of overwritten the talking, I'll probably go back and redo a couple of little bits. And one thing I have found with the Rinseless Wash a little bit as well is that when I'm going around the wheel, as it sort of starts to dry and pull away, you can kind of see little bits that you've missed. So I've probably gone back to those areas because I've noticed a bit more brake dust that I haven't picked up yet. And because I'm just using light, I'm not using any pressure, or just being light, gliding over the top, because I don't want to damage these wheels. They have already got a few scuffs and scrapes on them, and I had a slight issue with my watch scratching one of them, left a little titanium scuff on it. So just be mindful of those sort of things. I've just been a bit reckless. And yeah, and then you can get right in there with the wheel brush, you know, get around the calipers and to the barrels. But it is, this is my method, you know, it's not essential that you do barrels. Some people are not interested in that, you know, as long as the face of the wheel is clean and looks good, the inside of the wheel can be caked in brake dust. It's just that I've got into the format now, really wanting the whole wheel completely done. And at some point I will be taking these wheels off to put a ceramic coating on them. At the moment they're just basically layered up with a few layers of the quick beads and ceramic gloss. So they do have protection on there. It might be that I do take them off and put the wheel wax on. But here I'm showing you the towel method. The towel can wrap around the back of the spoke, which is quite handy. You know, sometimes you get a bit of room in there. Sometimes the spokes are too tight for that, and then I'm using the 10 peg there to getting around the lugs rather than using the lug nut brush. And so it's just to show you there are different ways you can adapt. You know, if you don't have something right now, then perhaps wait and then get it later, and then just have that progression. So I just have to apologise a little bit here. So I've been realising as I've been recording this at my kitchen table that every time I lean on the table there's a slight creak. So now the last few segments that I've been recording are really creaky. So if you hear something weird, I apologise. It is the table, not my joints or something weird. So now we've rinsed the wheel off, and now we're going to apply the quick beads and literally just shake the bottle first to make sure it's mixed, because it has graphene in it. And we don't need too much of this, and you see me sort of talking, but I've overwritten that now. At the beginning you'll need a few pumps to get it going, a couple of spritzes on the front and a couple in the barrel, and then feel free, do it all in the wheel well, do it on a suspension, literally cover everything you possibly want to, but don't do the surface of the tyre. The tyre wall, but not the actual tyre itself. Let it dwell a few seconds, do its thing, and then we're gonna rinse it from the bottom up, and kind of picks up, and you sort of see that foaming action as it starts to react with the water, and then that basically applies it to the surface, and you get a really nice hydrophobic finish on the surface where you applied it. And you don't need high pressure to spread it, you just need water moving to move it around. So it's not pressure based, it's just water based. And then I may have gone a little bit over the top of the rinse, and then we're moving on to another wheel. And again, same process, spraying on the solution, clean the tyre, get in the spokes. I like to do the surface first before the barrels. Then I do the barrels, working methodically in one direction, trying to get in all those little nooks. And then I'm using my lug nut brush into the bolts. It's always the locking nut that's a bit tricky. And then on this one, I'm going into those little holes on this 8-spoke alloy. which are quite annoying. So in here, we're going to spray the quick beads, and I'm hoping this will come out a little bit better. See, just a few spritzes, you don't need too much of this, it just is so great. And then we're going to go up and just nicely move the solution around, and it will go all into those lug nuts, it will go into the barrels, into all those little crevices and corners and stuff, and you can see the water is just sheeting off there. It is such a good product. I think the G on wet coat is a really good solution to this as well. You get really good protection, and obviously don't forget your exhaust tips. You know, I love to always clean my exhaust up as well. You can get underneath the car and do the actual exposed parts of the metal, just to give your exhaust a bit of life as well, you know, especially following winter months with all the salts and the grime, and if you've been to the beach and things, it's just, you know, salt water is just, it's evil on metal. And a little bit of the quick beads on the exhaust tips, you know, make them hydrophobic. And you can also use the quick beads on the engine bay as well. I didn't have it at the time when I did the Ibiza, and what's great is, see that sort of grill there, you know, you're not going to get a towel in and do all those little bits, so just having those quick beads in those real intricate areas means that all of that is now protected. And then, you know, later on you can blast it out with a leaf blower, and it works really well, if you have one, of course. And that's pretty much it for the wheels. We can let them dry. So now we've done the wheels, nature has kind of taken its course, and we start to dry the paint, and we're using the ceramic gloss as our drying aid. So the drying aid philosophy is that you're kind of using that protection layer to give a bit of lubrication for the towel as it moves around, while leaving that layer of protection. And then we can just go around the car, apply the ceramic gloss. I like to do the door shuts inside and out, all the way around the windows as well. And it depends on your car as well. Like, so I have frameless windows on this one, and by opening the door, it brings that top of the window down, so I can get that little bit of dirt at the top of the window. And with framed windows, you may want to do the same. Just pull the window down a bit so you can get that little bit that's hidden within the rubber seals. And I'm using the ceramic gloss, and you can apply that all over the car, on the rubbers, on the plastics, on the windscreen, on the glass, literally everywhere you want to, really. So just a few spritzes we need just to get it on the surface. You don't need to go mental. It really is good. And the same with if you're using the bead maker or a similar product, you know, the sealants now are such good quality, and you can use them on anything. If some of your plastics have started to fade and have started to sort of go a bit milky, you might want to think about using some kind of plastic restorer. But for this stage, as long as you've cleaned them up, then you can have them protected. With this car at the moment, you know, it's not heavily soiled, so, you know, if you've got a car like the Ibiza where you've got literal moss growing out of your rubbers around the doors and windows, this method is probably not going to be as effective as it is on this. As you can see, if you go back and watch the Ibiza video, you will need pressure washers and more aggressive methods of detailing. So now I've got another towel here, a smaller one, which I use on my wheels. It's a soft plush towel, but I'm applying ceramic gloss to the wheels. And this is the bucket at the end. Everything's in there. Pretty gross, right? So now let's sit back and enjoy the fruits of our labour and have a beer. So that's basically it. We've been through the car, we've detailed it, and I think the result looks pretty good. The last two things that I would just want to touch on was this is kind of like your bare bones starter kit, I feel like, and then there's two other things that I feel like you could get but are not critical, and that's a plastic and rubber dressing. So I use Angel Wax Elixir. There are many other products out there that do various things. This could use as a tire dressing. I use it on the plastics on this one because they do tend to fade and go a bit bizarre. And also glass cleaner. I use Vision from Angel Wax. This thing is phenomenal. It's so strong. You can also use the Rinseless Wash as a glass cleaner. So in that sense, you're kind of covered there. Use the spray bottle that you've got, and I do recommend that you should buy glass towels, because as soon as you cross contaminating towels, you'll never get your glass clean, and it will be a right nightmare. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching, everybody so far. Really appreciate your support, and look forward to the future. I've got a few things lined up, so let's see where it goes. Thanks for watching. This is the Angel Wax. Oh no, that's the metal polish. Hang on. So that is the Bilberry. Hang on, let's have a rejig.